Shit We've Read is brought to you by Oblivion Geeks in partnership with Bilo Network.
Please visit shitwe'veread.com to support the show.
Now, let's talk about some books.
Hello, Internet, and welcome to another episode of Shit We've Read, a sci-fi fantasy book podcast hosted by some geeky friends. My name is Jason Rico, and I will be your ghost host for this episode. We will be talking about Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, which is a dark fantasy / dark academia mystery. Normally, this would be the part where I introduce my co-host, Laura, but unfortunately, she can't join us today. But that's okay, because in her place, we have two awesome guest hosts that I'm super excited to have on. First, let's introduce Bella Romero, who is making her third appearance now on the podcast. So she's going for the hat trick. There's no prize, though, unfortunately, so you've done this really for nothing. But welcome back, Bella. How's it going?
I was under the impression there was a cash prize for appearing 3 times, but, that's fine. Good. How are you, Rico? It's good to be back.
I'm doing well. Thanks for coming back. I'll bust open my piggy bank at home, and whatever's in there is yours. It could be anywhere from like 50 cents to like maybe $12.
That sounds about right, considering we're after Christmas, and I'm sure there's a new Funko that's been released somewhere in the world, and you bought it.
That's a good point. Actually, never mind. All right, so our next guest host is making their debut on the podcast, and I'm super excited to have them. Z LaFrance. Hello, Z. How's it going?
Hello. I am here on your podcast today.
You are. The prophecy has come true. For those of you who do not know Z, they are a designer, an illustrator, what else? Cat lover.
I like the word sewist. But when I typed that in for my bio for the website, it autocorrected to sexist, and I'd just like to say that that's not true. It's sewist.
That's an unfortunate autocorrect for
and the complete opposite of who you are.
It really got me.
Okay, so we have Z, who's definitely not a sexist on the podcast. Welcome. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having
anybody
me.
who doesn't know you, what kind of books do you enjoy reading?
Anything with vampires, broody vampires, a queer love story, enemies to lovers trope. I do like a magical school, but I haven't read a lot that I love. Might be a clue for how I feel about this book.
Ooh, okay.
And a haunted Victorian mansion. Any of those things.
I love the clarification that has to be a broody vampire, not just vampires. Yeah. Broody vampire. Very important distinction there.
Very important.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks again, both of you, for joining me on this book. I am super excited to talk about it. But before we do, as always, I want to ask you both, what other shit have you read recently?
Gosh, what have I read recently? Well, I had a concussion, so I had to take a little bit of a breather from reading. Thanks, Rico, for reminding me yet again.
I didn't bring it up. You could have just left that out.
Well, if you asked me what I've been reading lately, the question is...
lately could have been a year ago. It was up to you, and you brought it up.
Well, I couldn't really start reading again until recently. So, what? But so due to the concussion, I took a little bit of a breather from reading. But I had been listening to the Harry Potter series through the library so as to not give any money to that turf. But I highly recommend the audiobooks for anyone who is feeling nostalgic and wants a good school of magic. That's definitely the vibe. Very immersive. And catches everyone's attention. Even Sander, my fiance, was very into the readings. Like, we read it all the way to Tahoe and back, like before bed. And if I read it without him, he was like, "Wait, we didn't end here. Wait, last time they were in the dungeon with the troll. How are they in the chamber already?" And I was like,
"A troll in the dungeon."
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, it's a real quick transition."
Wow,
And he was
Bella.
like, you listened to it without me. And I was like, I can neither confirm nor deny.
Well, he's going to listen to this later and find out.
No, he already knows. I was like, look, I started it without you. It's not my fault you got hooked. Haters gonna hate. So
Cool. Well, that sounds like a good primer for this book, maybe with the magical school.
yeah,
Sweet.
it's a theme.
Yeah.
One of my recent reads is also a magical school. I finally broke down and read Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. And I don't know what took me so long. It is perfect and beautiful in all the ways. And I absolutely loved it. So thank you, Rico. You were the person who pushed me to read that, like when it first came out. So I'm very happy that I finally took you up on that. And I'm also in the middle of the second book, Wayward Son, but I'm not like such a fan of like, what's that thing where you drive somewhere?
Road trip.
Thank you. I'm not such a fan of road trip themed things, whether it be books or movies or anything. So
I'm with you on that.
I'm struggling. I'm in the middle of it.
I'm actually Carry On is my next book series to read. I already have it, the audiobook reserved on Libby. So
Sweet.
due
I'm
to
so
both of
glad
you
you're
liking
finally
it.
reading it. I'm so glad you're finally getting through the series.
It's so good. It's wholesome and lovely.
I love dark academia books, magical school stuff, and so I've been trying to chase that high of a different series that isn't problematic. And so when I came across this, I was like, oh, this might be it, because you got the queer love story in there, and you got the broody vampire, and you still got all the recognizable tropes of a Hogwarts-like school, but it's great.
Hogwarts, cool.
No turfs involved, hopefully.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully we'll see.
not.
With a name like Rainbow Rowell, one would hope.
I would assume not, but I don't know.
You never know. So you've shared what you've been reading. I should probably do the same. I don't know what the hell I've been reading. Oh, please hold while I look that up.
I don't know. When I go to Beer's Books with you, you always buy like 10 different books.
Okay,
we've gone like 3 times in the last 2 months.
Okay,
so
there's
like,
a meme I've come across, which is very true. Reading books, buying books, and collecting books are 3 entirely different hobbies.
100%.
And so, right when me and you went to Beers, that is me buying books. That's not necessarily books I'm going to read at any point in my life.
That's true.
Yeah. If I had been invited to that, you would have gotten your Christmas gift, which I've been holding on to forever.
I'm almost. Hold on, let me think. I'm almost positive I asked Bella.
I did invite Z.
You wanted you all to yourself.
Z,
no,
you had therapy that day. Don't at me.
Excuse me for prioritizing my mental health.
Yeah, screw you and your mental
health. It could have
health.
been book therapy. It could have been book therapy. And
yeah. Why deal with your problems when you can escape them? Come on.
Okay, I confession, I do remember you inviting me now.
Yeah. This is the second time you've tried to gaslight me on this invitation.
Oh, wow.
Triggered.
Oh, we haven't even gotten into the book and they're swinging already. Okay.
I know. This is our friendship dynamic.
Yeah, no, that's great. This is great. I'm so excited to talk about this book with both of you. Okay, what I've been reading really quick is, I've mentioned this plenty of times on other podcasts. I'm making my way through a bunch of Star Wars crap. So I've been reading a bunch of Star Wars, the Old Republic graphic novels. So that's pretty much what I've been reading recently up until this book. I'm getting ready for Star Wars, the High Republic, which is Disney's new era of Star Wars they've been publishing, and they're going to release a TV show on and stuff. So we'll see how it goes. But
can I talk about this is related to books and how you said book reading, buying, and collecting are 3 different categories.
Yes.
So I don't think I've shared this on the podcast yet, but I collect all the pretty versions or unique versions of Little Women. So as to one, it was my favorite book growing up as a kid. I just like really identified with Jo and like the sisterness of everything because I had a sister. And then coming from a household with a single mom, like it was just a lot was going on there for me that like helped me click with reading. So I love that book just from a nostalgic perspective.
Cute.
And yeah, you know. And so I've kind of been collecting like in my older, like ever since I went to England and saw the Penguin like cloth hard copy. What are those called? That texture.
Special edition?
It was a Penguin
Like the
special
cloth
edition,
bound, yeah.
cloth bound hardcovers. And so I bought that. I was like, okay, this is how I will stop myself from collecting every single book in this collection, is that I will get just one book in each collection so that like I have the history of the collections without the budget breaking burden of collecting all of them. Yeah. So I only buy the Little Women copy unless for whatever reason there's like a book I need. Like, you know, I'm becoming an English teacher, so like, I'm going to have to get books. And so like maybe if there's a pretty version,
I just, I need one.
Unless I need a different one. But it's been restricting me so far. But Rico found me at Beer's Books on our book date. He got me before I got there because I was super late because I'm the worst.
Very late.
He got me a
2 hours late?
No, like 20
Not
minutes.
Bad, yeah.
Yeah. He got me he found a 1948 used copy of the book that had like an inscription for like someone's Christmas gift.
Aww.
And it's like a hardcover, like illustrated version of the book that even had the book box, and it was all in great condition, and it was like $10. And then the next day I went to Barnes and Noble and bought another pretty version of the book.
Okay.
Because it was a pretty version. It had cherry blossoms and gold pages. It was pretty.
Oh, geez, you
had to have it.
I went to Barnes and Noble knowing I was coming out with that book. Like that's why
you'll have to show me these things in person.
Yeah, come down after this podcast. You know,
was it Barnes and Noble's exclusive version of it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love all those leather bound hardcovers that they all have. They have so many of those.
Yeah, it wasn't a leather hardcover, but it was an embossed. It's like a floral.
I think I know exactly what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. All the different books have different flowers on them. It's their floral editions.
I have Dracula from that collection.
I had a feeling you would.
It has like the garlic plant on it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They didn't have that many. They happened to have Little Women, but they were really like skimpy on the collection. I think maybe with COVID and stuff, they just didn't have everything in stock, which was a bummer. But I had the one I needed, and it stopped.
Well, they had that 50% off hardcover sale a few weeks ago, and people were going ham, and so might have cleared out a lot of stock.
Yeah, I know. I saw that on TikTok, and I was really upset because I told my friend Nairi that I would go with her to Barnes & Noble, and she was in LA. So I was a good friend. Didn't go when it was on sale.
I think I went to 3 Barnes & Noble that weekend.
Yeah, I should have gone. Sorry, Nairi. Should have gone without her.
All right, let's get back on track.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, so as I mentioned before, we're talking about Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is her adult debut. For those of you who may have heard the name and may be familiar with her, she's written a bunch of stuff in the Grishaverse, which is Shadow and Bone trilogy, which it just turned into a Netflix show that debuted last year, I believe it was. Six of Crows duology, King of Scars duology. So she's big in YA. That's a great world. I love that. But this is her adult debut. And when I say adult, it is very adult. I will mention now there is a lot of content in here that could be triggering. So I'm going to mention it right now. We're not going to talk about it yet. We probably will touch upon it later in the spoilery section. But I'll mention it now just so you're aware. If any of this is difficult content for you, please take care of yourself and proceed with caution. But some of the warnings in this book include violence, sexual assault, including rape, physical and emotional abuse, murder, gore, self-harm, drug addiction, and forced consumption of human waste. So again, we're not going to talk about this quite yet. We'll give our first thoughts. We won't touch upon any of this, but later we may. So I know this is a podcast, so you can't see the video, but Bella gave a very lovely facial reaction to forced consumption of human waste.
Oh, because
at first it was like
headphones in. I'm so sorry.
It was the word, and then it was me picturing the video. And
honestly, the description of it was so vivid that, like, I it was too in my brain where it was like,
Yeah.
oh, it was bad.
I skipped it as soon as it was like. Never
Okay,
mind.
well,
We'll get to it in the spoilers.
We're not supposed to get into
We'll
this here. We're not supposed to get into this here. Hold on.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
You triggered me.
I know. Okay, sorry. I was
With
warning you.
your trigger warning.
We're triggering.
I'm sorry. Okay, let's just take a second. Just clear minds of any imagery.
I need a cat.
All right, let's just read the synopsis to give people a better idea of what the book is about. Bella, you want to read the synopsis?
Sure. Galaxy, or Alex Stern, is the most unlikely member of Yale's freshman class. Raised in the Los Angeles hinterlands by a hippie mom, Alex dropped out of school early and into a world of shady drug dealer boyfriends, dead-end jobs, and much, much worse. In fact, by age 20, she is the sole survivor of a horrific, unsolved, multiple homicide. Some might say she's thrown her life away. But at her hospital bed, Alex is offered a second chance to attend one of the world's most prestigious universities on a full ride. What's the catch, and why her? Still searching for answers, Alex arrives in New Haven, tasked by her mysterious benefactors with monitoring the activities of Yale's secret societies. Their 8 windowless tombs are the well-known haunts of the rich and powerful, from high-ranking politicos to Wall Street's biggest players. But their occult activities are more sinister and more extraordinary than any paranoid imagination might conceive. They tamper with forbidden magic, they raise the dead, and sometimes they prey on the living.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So there's a little context of what this book's about in case you haven't read it yet. And so for those of you who haven't read it and may be interested in reading it, let's go around and give us our first impressions of the book. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Whatever. Z, as new kid on the block, do you want to go first?
Oh, boy. I think the description that Bella just read, I think, is a little different than the one that was on Goodreads, which is where I usually go to find book information. And I just want to ask you two something before I start on my review. When you read like the description of the book, did you think there was going to be like a lot of magic happening? Because the Goodreads description doesn't even like say the word magic. It just talks about like the windowless tombs and going to Yale. And I like started this book very confused.
I'm wondering what synopsis you read, because the one I pulled is from Goodreads, but it might be a different edition than when you're reading.
The end, that they tamper with forbidden magic, they raise the dead, and sometimes they prey on the living. That is not included in my description.
Oh, you're right. It is not there.
Where'd you get that then, Rico? Magic.
Spooky.
What?
Isn't that weird?
Where'd you get that?
Where did I get that?
Did you come up with it? It's really good.
It is good. It sounds like it should be included because I was confused.
No, I didn't. I mean, I wish I could take credit for that. I know, I didn't. Where did I copy that from?
You're good with the words. I don't know.
This is what happens when I put the outlines together at 3 a.m. I'm half asleep. I'm in a trance. I don't know where
it's from the book jacket.
The book jacket.
The dust jacket. It's in the book.
But I copied and pasted from somewhere. I didn't type it all out.
Maybe you got it from Amazon then.
Maybe.
I don't know.
This is where the Audible versus actual physical book comes into play.
Yeah, I was like, that sounded familiar. Where did I read it? And yeah, it was inside the dust jacket.
To answer your question, I don't know. I guess I was more eager to find out how much magic there actually would be, because I know it's based on real secret societies. And so I didn't know if Bardugo was going to go like full fantasy or kind of keep it in realism.
Do you feel like it was kind of low on the fantasy?
For the first half of the book, I did. And then I felt like he got way into fantasy. I'm like, okay, now she's actually going for it.
Bella.
So I picked this book before I had a concussion. So
oh my God.
When it came down to reading it, I could not remember what this book was about. But that's actually how I prefer to dive into books, is without any preconceived notions and just kind of diving in. Like, I love to get recommended books by friends who are like, I just really liked this book. And then as soon as they describe it more, it goes into womp womp, womp 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 womp, because I don't want to know anything. So So I'd kind of got a little bit of warning from Z because they were like, "Do you know what this book is about? Have you started reading it?" And I was like, "No." So I knew that there was something crazy going to happen, and that it didn't fit their idea of what the book had been described to be,
Right.
and that there were different timelines going on with the narrators.
Yeah, that was
prediction of
like the only
events.
thing I said before I stopped myself.
Yeah.
Because I
And
want to
so
save it
I
for
was
the pod.
prepared. Yeah, because I was like, excuse me, we have to talk about this with Rico.
Also, everyone listening should take a drink every time Bella mentions her concussion.
So on the first episode of Bella, the secret word was trash man.
No, men are trash.
Mm-hmm.
It was men are
Men are
trash.
trash.
I agree with
Any
that.
variation of the word
Thank
trash
you.
and men together. And then this episode is concussion for sure.
Okay. Anyway.
Sorry.
And Z, what did
Back to me.
Yeah, what did you think this book was going to be versus what it actually was?
I think I'm like kind of half in the same brain space as Bella, where I don't want to know like a lot about the book before I start, but I do like to read the description. And when I very hurriedly read it, I was like, oh, this is just like about Yale and someone goes to Yale. And that was it. I did not know that there was like magic. It was a magical school type of book. So I was like,
Gotcha.
when I was beginning it, I was just confused. And the multiple timelines, I think it might have also been that I haven't listened to a book in a really long time. I've been feasting them with my eyeballs usually. So there was a bit of a disconnect on I need to like actively be paying attention and I need to like rewind if I miss something because I'm not like physically looking at it. So I think it was probably a me problem, user error and all that. But
we did kind of talk. That was one thing Z and I talked about on our walk was the difference between, and this is how we were like, we don't judge audiobook readers at all. Like sometimes convenience.
We are not ableist.
Yeah, exactly. Like audiobooks are so accessible and make reading really easy for most people. But for books like this, where you have the different timelines and your only cue is the chapter title that says the time period. So for those of you who haven't read the book, each chapter is numbered. So you know it's chapter 1, 2, 3, but there's no chapter titles other than like the time period. So the season, winter, late spring, early spring, fall. So that's your only way of knowing, other than context as you read, what timeline you're in. So if you've been reading the audiobook and you forget what chapter you're on, it can be, I could see that being really jarring. I've read other books like that where it was hard to keep up with what was going on because of the different timelines or even different narrators. So I think this book is a little bit trickier for an audiobook experience.
The audiobook that I was listening to did switch, like when it was Darlington's POV, there was like a different voice narrator than when it was Alex. I am going to say a lot of bad things about this book, but I think at the end of the day, back to the original question, I did like it, and I'd give it like a 3.5.
Z, you're going to fit in perfectly here because Laura and I constantly spend the entire episode talking about what we don't like. But then at the end of the episode, like, we really like this book. It doesn't sound like we did.
Yeah.
Right.
But we did.
I think things that you don't like stand out to you more and you remember them.
Right. And it's usually, at least for me, it's more of like, I wish this was better because I enjoyed the book. Right. Like this is where I kind of fell short. It could have been better, like even more so than it was. If I absolutely hate a book, I'm like, I don't care enough to hate it.
Right. You stop reading it.
It's not that you're disappointed. You just expected more from the book.
Wow.
Maybe I am disappointed.
Okay.
Maybe at the end I'll change my rating to even lower.
I've done that on this podcast.
Oh,
like I've both
that,
improved and worsened a score. I feel like the Lost Apothecary, I feel like I adjusted, but I don't remember. I will say that I overall really enjoyed the book. was pleasantly surprised, despite the triggers within it, to actually come out of it like thinking about the book. And I'll leave the rest of my assessment for the spoiler edition.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I enjoyed the book overall. Like I mentioned, I love magical schools and dark academia. And one of my favorite genres is urban fantasy. I can get into urban fantasy way easier than I can other types of fantasy because
Agreed.
it's grounded in reality. And so the fact that this takes place in a world I understand, even though I've never went to Yale, but I still know, okay, I know about Yale. I know about the secret societies that exist there. I got it. I don't have to spend the mental energy to understand the world. I can just go into the story. And so I really like that.
Okay, so since you kind of brought that up, I will say my thing then, because I don't think it's gonna spoil it. But if you're a Gilmore Girls fan, Rory joins a secret society at Yale when she goes to Yale. And so this to me was like the dark side, like a dark Rory experience. Like because Rory was born to a single mom, but like ultimately had a lot of privilege because of her rich background and her grandparents. So to me, this was like the dark Rory edition. And I was really excited about that as a big Gilmore Girls fan. So yeah, I'm with you. I was like immediately hooked. Like, oh, secret societies at Yale and magic, sold.
Maybe I'm just a fool, or I went to art school and I don't know anything about Yale, but I had no idea.
That's okay. How are you gonna know?
What is a Yale?
What is a Yale? And honestly, it's true. Like people look down at it as the lesser of the Ivies. And so like that was even on par with reality. So I was like, yeah, there's
like,
a lot
I don't
of
even
talk.
know like what the good, like ridiculous school is and what the bad
Harvard,
ones are.
Princeton,
like,
Yale.
okay,
Duh.
that's gonna
Just kidding.
it's not gonna stick in my brain folds.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons I know about the secret societies is because
How do you know? You're not a Gilmore Girls fan.
No, I'm not.
Didn't we go to the same art school?
We did go to the same art school. You're correct. Yes, we did. And I did watch some Gilmore Girls. I was in love with Rory, Alexis Bledel, right?
You would
Typical.
be. See, that's what I said. I was like, you know what? I'm not even surprised.
Okay, but what it was is the fact that she's Spanish and she speaks fucking beautiful Spanish. That's what got me.
That's true. She's Argentinian.
You don't expect it from her. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is Argentinian? Is what she is?
I believe so, yeah.
I did not know that.
Fun fact. Digress. I love the idea of secret societies. And I really want to start my own secret society or be in one.
I already started one, the Cult of Bella, so
yeah,
you're in one.
I don't girl or Gilmore, so I had no help in this situation.
Bella, I am not in any cult unless I get a cool ring or we meet in like an abandoned building somewhere. Or
I've given you a pin or two, so you're in the cult.
I agree with Rico. I've been in this cult for many years now, and where is my ring that like opens a secret lock?
I'll take a pin, but it has to be a Cult of Bella pin. I need to have something that when I see someone else on the street, it's like, I know you're in this cult too.
Okay, Z, can you design me a crest and I'll make y'all rings?
Wow,
honestly,
putting us to
we
work.
Could totally do that.
Yeah, I'll get you all the signet rings. With
okay,
the Cult
Rico,
of Bella
you're not
symbol.
really in the Cult of Bella because you didn't just say hell yeah just now. You do whatever Bella says.
You see, I don't know the.
He does. He's like the member.
He's a fringe member.
No. He's like the member that's like, I'm not in a cult. I'm here out of my own free will. But he fucking drank the Kool-Aid and yeah.
I was thirsty.
Exactly.
It was
he's
actually
the guy
Flavor
who's like,
Aid.
I just showed up. Flavor Aid.
That's a fun fact. Flavor Aid, not Gatorade.
Okay.
Speaking of true crime and Flavor Aid, back to the book.
Yeah. Let's get to the spoiler stuff because I know I'm sure there's a lot we want to say about this. Again, there are a bunch of trigger warnings to this book, so please tread carefully if anything is potentially difficult for you. Okay.
I would like to live in an age where you open a book and there are actual trigger warnings in it. You don't have to like Google it. It should have been at the beginning of the audiobook.
That would be great.
I 100% agree. I don't know why that I was thinking about that too. Like, where the fuck was my trigger
You shouldn't
warning
have to seek it
consent
out. It should just
page? Yeah.
be, it should come with the book like it does at the beginning of movies or
Yeah.
TV shows.
I do really appreciate the Goodreads synopsis. They have them at the bottom. Like they're part of the
Yeah.
synopsis. I'm like, oh, great.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
I think what we have to start out with at the beginning, my first complaint. Can we cuss on this podcast?
I do all the time.
The podcast is called Shit We've Read. Yeah, we
Oh,
can.
I forgot.
We absolutely fucking can, yeah.
Z just thinks they're on Zoom with us. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm
about
on
it, but-
Zoom so much for work.
This is
but
not a work Zoom.
I cuss at work all the time. Anyway, my first and foremost complaint is that the main character is named Galaxy, but we call them Alex for the entirety of the book. So what was the fucking point?
To show that the mom was a hippie.
I have a theory about that because there's power in a name, and it kind of came up with the professor at the end, where she kept calling her Alexandra, and she was like, "My name's goddamn Galaxy." I think it was a way of protecting herself.
I did
from
like
everything
that at the end. I felt the same.
Yeah, I felt like it came full circle. I don't think it was fully explained as like why she was calling herself Alex, but I think for me, the way that I read into it was both protecting her from the ghosts and protecting her, because then other people would call her Alex, so the ghosts would never know her name.
Right.
Which is like part of that bonding experience. So but it also protected her from being bullied for being the daughter of a hippie.
Right.
So I think it did both. So for me, it wasn't a hard stretch to see why she was being called Alex.
Speaking of Alex, and not the name at all, but I did love that our protagonist was a Jewish Latinx.
Yeah, that was cool.
Character, which I just thought is a pretty cool combination. You don't really see a whole lot of in fiction.
Indeed.
And I liked Alex as a character a lot. Like, I really was rooting for her the entire time. I didn't always agree with some of the shit she did in her thought process, and she was kind of rough around the edges, and she made certain decisions I didn't always like, but she was such a likable character for me that I really wanted her to succeed. And you know, this whole kind of misdirect of how maybe she was the villain and she was responsible for Darlington's demise, and why didn't she save him? I didn't want her to be the bad guy. And so I was kind of glad when at the end, I was like, oh, she's not.
I liked her once she started like getting mean to people. When she started demanding answers, I was like, yeah, I'm into this.
Yeah, I like the her that came into her power.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, that started seeing that what she had gone through was actually a strength.
Mm-hmm.
And not something to hide or to be ashamed of, because I felt like the underlying theme here in the book was privilege and power and how it shapes society, which I think they could have gone further into, but I did appreciate that she was very vocal about it throughout the book. Like these fucking, rich white boys, like breaking their, like, doing these rituals and never worrying about
the consequences.
Yeah. And so I was like, that's so true. And the fact that she observed that like brown women were the backbone of these people's power, and like the vulnerable, the people who needed jobs, who needed second chances, were the ones that were being hired by the society. So that was really cool. I felt like she really kind of turned the tables on them. And used them to her advantage to like get up in the world, to get Yale and her education squared away.
How much of the heavy lifting, in terms, you said one of the themes was privilege and power. How much of the heavy lifting towards those themes do you think was done just by the simple fact that it was set in Yale? And like, if you had taken this exact story and set it anywhere else, not a university or anything, do you think the author would have had to work harder, or is there just like an inherent acceptance that these schools have some privilege to them?
I think that was part of my criticism of she could have done more, because I did feel like it was always like, oh, these Yale kids. And I'm like, not everyone at Yale 98% of them, yes, are full of privilege. But like there's a good chunk of people who legitimately earn their spot there.
Yeah.
So I felt like she didn't do enough to really dig in to the core of what the privilege was, right? Like colorism, sex, like all of these themes that she was touching on, but she never really labeled and never really dove into. I think she could have done more with, but I think that even beyond that, though, she did a pretty good job. Like when it came to like, you know, these actors and these bankers and the people deciding um where money came from and where it went were because of the magic, and how they were perpetuating disparities in the inequalities like through the magic, through Leith or Lethe or Leith.
Lethe?
Lethe, thank you.
I have the privilege of listening to the audiobook, so I know how to pronounce things.
Yeah. I did listen to a chapter of the audiobook because I was trying to finish it for our original recording date.
Damn, I thought you were going to say because of your concussion.
No. I was trying to finish it by yesterday, and then I was like, nah, it's not going to happen. Yeah, so Lethe, like, how she was like, oh, we're not actually here to protect the abuse of power. We're here to ensure the status quo. And I was like, oh, yes.
Yeah.
Like that, I think she did a really good job of exploring how power protects itself, right? Like they find ways to manipulate the system. And yeah, I don't know if that's just me being like a cynic as a former government employee. But like, yeah.
It was said many times that like she knew
odd.
there would be no consequences for anybody's actions, and it proved true-ish in the end.
Yeah, and she was doing her best. She like still believed in the institution, them as knights guarding the power, safeguarding humans, safeguarding the people outside of the power. And they were just like, nah, we're just gonna find people and, you know, don't look too close. Just go back to Yale. Go get grades, go pass classes. And she was like, that none of that feels right.
Yeah. Overall, the book really reminded me of Veronica Mars, specifically season 3. It's like pretty similar. It's very similar to Veronica Mars. Even the main character, especially, I think I might have been influenced by the voice narrator in the Audible recording, because they actually kind of sounded like Kristen Bell in the way that they delivered things. So it was really on my mind how similar they were. And
to that, yeah.
Veronica Mars and true crime podcasts have taught me to always be suspicious of a pillar of the community. So, but I also suspected that, you know, there was so much talk about ghosts that there had to be a ghost involved in the murders.
How did you feel about the inclusion of ghosts in this world? Just overall.
I love spooky shit. So,
yeah.
Tell me how you really feel, Z.
It was one of my favorite parts of the book was her relationship with North.
Yeah, one of the things I really loved about the portrayal of ghosts in this book is us in the real world right now. The belief that ghosts kind of inhabit places like graveyards and haunted houses, right? You go towards these spooky places where you think would congregate. But in this book, the world, I like the idea that ghosts aren't drawn towards death. They want to avoid that. They're drawn towards life. They're not going to be at a graveyard. They're going to be in an amusement park because there's a lot of people there. If people are having sex, if there's blood, if there's anything connected to life, that's where they want to be. A party, yeah. And I love that. Like, it just took the idea of ghosts and kind of flipped it on its head for me. It's like, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, that was a great way to go for ghosts in a different way than I'd seen before.
That felt so fresh. I agree. I really liked that.
One question though I had about, okay, so Alex, we find out later on, is a wheel walker is the term. Balbum describes that they can see other worlds or something along those lines. One question I had about the rules of what that was is Alex, throughout the entire book, at least my understanding, and maybe I missed something, so if I did, let me know. Alex can see ghosts. That's her power. She can see ghosts.
Grace.
She can interact with ghosts. She can have ghosts possess her. She can, later on we find out she can control ghosts, but it's about actual people ghosts. But then there's a flashback in one of Darlington's chapters when he's a kid, and there's a classmate, Mason, who's a wheel walker, and he can see this amusement park that is no longer there, I guess. And so I was really confused because, like, wait, can they just see derelict landmarks too? Like, is it not just people? Like, it's just, you know what I'm trying to get at? I'm not really putting it into words, but.
No, I know what you're talking about. And it's really interesting because this is going to bear with me on this journey as I try to explain things.
I'm ready. I'm strapped in.
Okay. So there's this book series I really loved as a kid called Molly Moon. I don't know if you guys have ever read it. It's excellent. Highly recommend it. It's a great, like, I guess it's like early YA. Like, it's not quite, I wouldn't say young adult. It's pretty juvenile, but it's really, really good. And she's a hypnotist, but throughout the books, she kind of cracks open her powers and becomes a time traveler because these crystals control things. And basically, Z, what are...
I have read this. I read the first one, and I think
you should read the rest of them.
Didn't like it. So
get out of here. Okay,
I'm so sorry.
Anyways, so one of the things they talk about is how time is a wheel. And so the wheel walkers, as you were talking about that, it makes me think of how this kid, Mason, as a wheel walker, was probably seeing a different world in parallel and like seeing time differently and walking the wheel of time to see that different, kind of like how when she went into the gold bathtub, whatever that was called right now. I can't remember.
Maybe just Galaxy hasn't learned how
I don't think Galaxy's learned it.
Kind of power.
Like,
and maybe in the next book.
Yeah.
There we go.
I think so. Yeah.
Did you know that they made a Molly Moon movie or TV show?
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out how to watch it. I'll bug Jason.
I can get that for you, baby.
Complex. Yeah. Thanks, Boop.
Okay, so you're saying that. Let me clarify. Are you saying that different wheel walkers potentially have slightly different abilities, or that this is an ability that Alex just hasn't learned yet but could do?
Yes, I think that Mason, his power was developed differently, and he was born maybe with that stronger, like, seeing different worlds, seeing different times. So, like, he was glimpsing that meadow in the past. Kind of like her body reverted back to a past time. Like, I think that as a wheel walker, they can kind of see things in the past. And so that's just my thought there, especially because that was still in New Haven. So they were still in the Nexus space. And so Mason was probably tapped into past scenes, past lives, versus Alex can control the ghosts better. Like, Alex can invite them in and control them better than, like, assuming that Mason couldn't do that because they didn't talk about it.
I got the feeling that Galaxy had, like, the powers that she did because of the, like, traumatic things that she had been through. That's why she had, like, this stronger pull towards, like, the ghost part of it all, or the gray.
I also think her grandmother is involved somehow, and her father.
Her father is definitely going to play.
Yeah.
There's going to be something there for sure.
The whole question, like, where did he come from? And just, like, avoiding. That'll come up.
Is there any big questions either of you had?
Well, like Carry On, in a different way, like, there's a character that is talked about a lot, but, like, doesn't show up for a majority of the book. And this was kind of, and I didn't like that. And this is kind of like the opposite of that, where there's a character that is talked about a lot and then they disappear for a majority of the book. And I was just like, really? Or not? I was very invested in the Darlington of it all, and then he just, like, went away.
I felt like this book could have been 2 books. Okay, there were certain parts where when I was reading the book where I felt like I don't know if dragged on is the right word, but like, you could have split it into 2 books, and I don't know if that would have made it the Darlington story better or not. I don't know. That's not for me to decide. But I'm kind of with you of like, or we have this whole other story of Darlington that I'm really invested in, and I want him to be part of the main story, but he's not. And it was frustrating because you keep going back and forth, and you just want them to dovetail. You want them to connect, and they don't. And I have to wait until a second book for that to happen,
Right.
potentially. Yeah, I really like Darlington as a character, though. I think the idea of him being a gentleman and always being like the nice guy and always doing what's right could have easily been, I guess, mishandled to where it feels disingenuous. But I actually believe Darlington was actually like a good guy and tried to do right in all instances. And
his
he's a
character
survivor.
really grew on me. And, if I'm ever invited back to this podcast, I will continue this segment within this podcast, which is what character in this book would be a vampire. And I'm going with Darlington 100% because he is that broody vampire character to me.
I was going to say, you love yourself a good, broody, pale blonde.
Yeah.
That's your vibe.
In a sweater vest? In a Yale sweater vest? Get out of here.
That speaks in like old English and has manners and like, he wears glasses too.
Yeah. And he has like that like ruffled hair. Yeah. I can picture it.
Do either of you fan cast when you're reading books?
Fan cast? Oh, yeah. Yes. 100%.
Like, pick someone in your head that would play that character.
You know who would be great in this role? He's from another magical school series.
Do tell.
Tom Fenton or
Tom Felton.
Felton. I was like, I'm missing a letter there. Tom Felton.
Tom Fentanyl.
I know that. Well, I'm watching Euphoria, so like my brain was like,
yeah, me too.
Fentanyl.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Felton.
I could see him being Darlington.
I don't remember what Darlington's description was because I just like made it up in my brain what he looks like, but I see him as a brunette, not a blonde.
I swear they said he was a blonde with blue eyes.
Did he? That makes sense.
I do not really read descriptions of the characters. I do not care what they look like. I just care about what they do.
I don't fan cast because I like what I create in my head.
You like what you like.
I like what I create in my head because I have a brain that can like I can come up with a whole movie in my brain. My partner and I have been discussing like how people's brains work a lot, and some people like can't have a conversation with themselves in their brain. Like they can't like think a thought, they have to say it out loud. But I have like the exact opposite brain where like I can picture a whole movie in there, and I like what's up there when I read a book. It's great.
When that was a thing on the internet, that blew my mind.
Yeah.
That there are people that don't have that inner monologue.
Mm-hmm. Yes, inner monologue is what it's called.
And like, wait, what?
Wait, what? People don't have...
Yes, some people literally can't just be quiet and think something up there. Isn't that crazy? And a lot of people can't visualize very well.
Okay, something I learned recently is not everyone can visualize what's happening in a book. Like they don't, like a movie doesn't play in their head. And I was like, well, what do you mean? How do you read a book then? I can't even imagine there not being a movie in my head. That's how I read so fast.
So I guess we're all the same here.
Yeah.
I will say I don't always do that. Sometimes I just don't care enough to do it. Like some people really enjoy, like some people, if they're reading a description of a room, right, and it's describing the wallpaper and blah, 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 some people will really take the time to visualize this entire scene.
Mm-hmm.
I do not. I just don't, because I am so more interested in the plot. So like when we did Harry Potter trivia years ago, and there's a question about like random characters, like I don't remember these little details because they're not important to me until they become important in the book, and I miss these things completely.
All those little details.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm really bad at the little details.
I'd like to say that my brain sometimes focuses on the small details so much that I miss something large because I can't hold a big thing when I'm looking at all the small things. So, brains are interesting and unique.
Yeah, and I would say I tend to focus on like the bigger picture and like trying to guess the ending and seeing where the book is going to go.
That was one of my favorite parts while reading the book, was trying to guess what was going to happen. Who was the murderer?
Wait, before we get to that, I did Google Darlington's description and he does have brown hair in the book. So
Wow.
I messed up.
Look at
I
me.
messed that up, Z. So sorry.
You had me. I will always believe someone telling me I'm wrong.
No.
9 times out of 10. So I was ready
I don't like that.
to take that.
No.
Well, I'm glad
never.
I'm correct.
I question myself all the time. So together we will never gaslight each other.
What a beautiful
Hopefully.
friendship we have.
Hopefully not. I don't know.
Not on purpose.
Not on purpose. Unless you're telling me I didn't invite you to a book date.
Hey, not on purpose.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Felt intentional. Anyways.
Rico, take us somewhere.
Wait,
Okay.
I was going to say, did you guys guess Professor Bellbaum's involvement in that in any shape or form? Like, to what degree did you guess she might be involved?
I thought she was sus. There was too much interest in Galaxy for it to be nothing. But I wasn't sure to what extent. And I definitely didn't guess the whole Daisy of it all.
I didn't think she was sus, but I knew she'd be bigger than just a professor. I was completely wrong. I thought she was going to be more of like some sort of mentor. Like she's taking her under her wing as just a professor, but she's part of this larger world, but for good. She's like the Gandalf. She's the Dumbledore, something like that. So the fact that she was the main bad guy is like, oh, totally wrong on that.
So I had a feeling that she was going to be part of the big bad, whatever it was. Like I knew the dean was part of it, and I thought maybe they were partners together. Because it, like, especially once we started getting into like, oh, the dean was here at my party the night that Tara died. And I was like, sus. Like, she's covering for the dean. Like, there has to be something there.
Right.
I never would have guessed the Daisy thing.
Right.
At all. That was such a good twist. I thought the author did a really good job of never alluding to the fact that Daisy was still alive. Like, that was so out of nowhere to me. Like obviously Daisy's death and like where all the other girls were in the Vale was set up, but not that would even be a consideration that Daisy was somehow still living in her nanny's body, eating the souls of other girls that then create power nexuses. Like, what? That was so good. That was something I really liked about this book. That at no point did you ever think that. I mean, if someone,
I would think someone is lying if they say that they guessed
like,
that,
oh,
right?
I saw that. I'm like, I have to be honest, like I did not guess that at all. I guessed that maybe that the professor was somehow involved, but nothing came close to that. Like I just thought she was going to be a step above the dean in the hierarchy of Lethe. You know, like maybe she was like secretly the grand priestess or like whatever their hierarchy is. Like we were about to like dive into this further. But that I never suspected that. So I was curious if one of y'all was going to lie.
Wow.
But but I thought that was really good. I thought the author did a great job of setting all of that up.
I didn't see shit coming. There was so many damn misdirects. Like everything was a misdirect. It was like I felt like there were like a dozen bad guys, and so by the time I got to the very end and I found out the bad guy, I was like, I don't even care who the bad guy is. Just tell me who actually is the bad guy, please. It's like fucking Scooby Doo. You take off the mask. It's it's the boyfriend. No, it's not the boyfriend. It's Jacob Keeley. No, it's not Jacob Keeley. Oh, it's the dean. No, it's not the fucking dean. It's the fucking Bellbaum. Oh, actually, she's not Bellbaum. She's fucking Daisy Whitlock. What? God, I don't care who it is anymore. Just please be over who is the bad guy.
Masks on masks.
You know what though? But that actually felt really realistic, that it was like there are these different bad guys that are operating independently from one another. And
Yeah.
there's just like a whole lot of bad going on in this
Mhm.
town of privilege and power
I
and
mean, this is college.
magic.
This is
I know.
college.
I was like, this is so
Yeah,
realistic.
yeah. No, I
Honestly,
mean,
like,
it's fair, but
yeah,
just in terms
I
of like
know. In
having a
terms of
nice.
like trying to figure out the story, you're like, wait, who's bad? What's happening? Where's Darlington right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was super good. I did think that they did a really great job of misdirecting you. Lots of red
And
herrings.
everything, and not just the bad guys. Darlington,
Everything.
him being dead, like he's not actually he's not dead. He was eaten by a fucking
Eaten
hellhound or
by a
whatever.
hellhound and
Gentleman demon.
transformed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, just kidding. He wasn't. I mean, he was eaten, but he's not gone because
So
he
I
transformed
I
into a.
I wasn't
never ever thought he was dead.
I
No,
never
no, no,
I
never
never
did.
thought
Never
I
did
never
either.
thought he was dead because
No.
I've read too much like Percy Jackson. I've read too much dark fantasy.
They're not gonna get rid.
They're not going to
of-
get rid of the gentleman of Lethe. Come on.
Yeah.
I knew he wasn't dead because of the two timelines. Like you would not
Right,
give us
yeah.
his story
Yeah,
if he
yeah.
was going to be
That's
over. If
why
it
I
was
was
one
so
just continuous storyline,
confused.
then maybe I would have bought it more. It was like you're
Yeah.
not going to invest this much real estate in your book
Yeah.
for someone who's not going to show up.
Right. And
That's
then
why I
I
was
was
confused
hoping
when he left.
yeah, I think she set up a second book, which by the way, I Googled it while we were talking. There is a second book in production. Also, Netflix bought this book to turn into a TV show. So we're
Of
going to get
course.
this all very soon. I think this will do great as a TV show. I think it'll do better at like separating this into chunks for people to really digest it. Kind of like what you said, Rico. Like I did feel like it needed two books because there were so many bad guys and so many crimes to solve. I mean, you
So
had
many fucking crimes.
it you had the murders that Alex was part of / kind of committed. Um,
Yeah.
which is another question I have for you guys. All the drugs and everything, the fraternities using the
Amity.
right, yeah, just everything that was happening. There you could have made this two books at the very least. Like there could have been
There were so many spinning plates.
yeah. But I mean, I think she did a pretty good job of making it digestible, at least for me. I was pretty hooked the whole time.
One of the characters that I started to really like was Dawes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Also
love-
your also your type, a quiet,
Okay.
bookish.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I'd also like to start another segment called "Which character in this book is gay?" And I'm gonna.
Oh, it's
my
Dawes,
vote is on
100%.
Dawes.
I actually wondered if Dawes and Alex would get together with Darlington out of the
Mhm.
picture. But I also really like that they may just form like a really close friendship.
Yes, I was
No.
mad that Darlington was like not in the book, even though he was like one of the narrators. And then
Yeah.
I started to really love Dawes, and I was like, you know what? He can be gone if they get together. I had the same thought.
Right? Yeah. I really enjoyed that.
What I liked about Darlington not being in the main storyline was I think it was like Bardugo's way of giving us the hunky, male protagonist guy for us to simp over,
Mm-hmm.
but also
The
not
vampire.
having the male character as part of the story. So we have female characters as the protagonists, and they don't
Yeah.
have a male hero. They don't have someone to come to the rescue. They're not damsels at any point. It's just them two solving everything. So I feel like it was a good way of giving us both, or otherwise it wouldn't work
Yeah.
together.
I mean, Alex referenced like Darlington's notes at the end in order to solve it, but I do like that it was Dawes and Alex who
Yeah.
got it done.
Did that give you any Chamber of Secret vibes? The fact that like Darlington left a cryptic piece of paper for someone to find with one really confusing note on it? Like, yeah. Like the
Yeah.
basilisk paper was in Hermione's hand and all it said was
Mhm.
pipes. And I was like, you have this trade newspaper and the only thing on it is first one ? Or first time ?
I think it was first one.
First one.
First
Yeah.
something.
First something.
Yeah, it totally has those vibes for sure.
Has those vibes. And then like the fact that he's gone and he can't reach him and he can't communicate with him. I don't know. Maybe it's because I just listened to that audiobook, but I liked that parallel. Also, I would have remembered that forever. So, because I keep the details in my brain, Rico.
I don't. Nope. As soon as I'm done with the books, on to the next. You're dead to me. Just move on.
I've been slowly removing information from my brain. Just because it doesn't need to all be in there.
Yeah, same. Although I'll
keep the parts I like.
Too much. Yeah. I know Snape's in your brain. That's for sure.
Snape's in my brain. Snape's on a plane.
Snape's on a plane. Excellent.
Okay, so Bellbomb as the big bad guy. The one part of the book that annoyed me the most was her reveal. And when she just did all her big bad monologuing and like explaining her rationale for doing everything, I just felt like that was the why? Like why? What purpose did it serve to explain everything? Why don't you just kill Sandow?
That was for us.
Exactly. It's for the audience only. I just felt like that was the laziest part of the book. Like,
Sandow did the same thing. He also gave his villain monologue and then was interrupted by an even bigger villain? monologue, which I thought was hilarious.
I think Bellbomb's monologue actually spoke to her character and how like she was so cocky. She's like, I've lived for over 100 years. I want you to know what I've done, because she's had to live in secret. So I felt like she needed a bragging moment.
It didn't stand out to me because maybe I just watched too much Buffy, but every villain gets a monologue and
yeah,
I'm here for it. I'm here to listen.
I love a good villain monologue, so don't mind.
I think it just went on a little too long for me because I wasn't aware of it, and then I kept reading. I'm like, wait, she's still revealing her big bad plan. Yeah. Like you're just gonna kill them both. Just stop and kill them both already.
I think she needed that like I'm better than you all moment, because no one knows her secret, and I think she just needed to get that off her chest. Yeah, I don't know, that it felt pretty organic to me versus Sandow's was a little bit like,
I got divorced and I don't have any money and I'm sad about it.
Yeah, that was just a lot of like, but also that felt really realistic because it's such a privileged thing to do, to be like, look, I needed money and I did it the best. Like I did it how I saw fit and I don't expect consequences. You want me to pay for my actions? I'm not doing that. I'm going to murder you instead. It's like,
I kind of liked his origin story more than Bellbomb's, only because in a fantasy book you expect a fantastical reasoning, and the fact that it was so human of like, I just need money, like it's like, oh, humans are the worst monsters after all, right? Like you don't need to have powers.
I feel like Bellbomb's could have had a little bit more of a slow burn, and that could have been its own book. Again, like she could have solved the like Tara's murder in this book and then been like, wait, this isn't the end, and then there could have been a second book of Bellbomb like figuring all the like who's Daisy and blah blah blah.
I think I just found Sandow's reasoning and thinking so boring because it's so typical, and I knew it was him when he started victim blaming Alex for all the ghost stuff, and I was just like, I've heard this 1,000 times, and I was so delighted when it like he wasn't the main bad guy, that I was all down on that monologue.
Really quick, you said victim blaming and we mentioned Dawes. I love the part where Sandow was victim blaming Alex, and then Dawes fucking stood up. It's like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry. Are you giving us the equivalent of like, she asked for this because of what she
wearing
wore
too short of a skirt.
Yeah. And I was like, yes. And I think that was, I think, the first instance of Dawes really kind of
coming out of her shell.
It's like, yes, Dawes, I fucking love you. Go get it, girl.
That's when I started to be like, oh, Dawes.
I agree.
Did either of you have any just flat out wrong theories that you really believed in, and like, oh no, just kidding?
I thought maybe Darlington was North somehow, like their spirits had melded, kind of like how North was coming into Alex. I thought maybe North had taken part of Darlington's spirit because that's why he was so connected to Alex and paying more attention to her.
I like it. I
Yeah.
like it.
So my brain was kind of going that direction.
I thought that North was going to somehow be like an involuntary participant in the rituals and stuff, which I guess is kind of true, but not to the extent I thought like he would be the Daisy of it all. But they did a switch on me.
Gotcha. I love being wrong with my theories. Bella, you'll remember when we did the Lost Apothecary and how I thought there was a modern day apothecary serial killer. That was like completely wrong.
That's right.
I thought that the reasoning for wanting a new nexus was to create a new ninth house. Now I know Lethe is the ninth house, but their job really is to oversee the other ones, right? And keep them
Right.
on check and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So I thought they're going to create a brand new house that was independent.
Yeah.
And so I thought the book title was referencing that ninth house, not the current ninth house. Does that make sense?
I also had that theory. I forgot about that, but that is where my brain went when they were like, there were all these other houses, and now there's only 8 plus us. Because I actually saw Lethe as more of like House Zero.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, like they're not really, they're neutral. They're not supposed to be part of the power. But but maybe it alluded to that they actually aren't an impartial party, that they are actually active participants in the rituals in their own twisted, sick way with the Nexus creation. Like they're not impartial. They have value. They're the ninth house.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. They have their own power. It's just different.
I'm bad at math, so numbers didn't factor into
zero's
any of my theories.
Zero's a neutral point. It has no value. So versus 9 has value to it. I don't know. That's where my brain.
Okay, I don't need you to explain math to me. I want to live in ignorance.
Math-splaining math to you?
Yeah.
Cool. Math.
But yeah, I'm with you, Rico. I was kind of like, okay, what does this ninth house mean? It has to do with Lethe.
I got excited. I was like, what would this new house be? Because I mean, each house has its own focus, and I don't remember what they are off the top of my head, right? But one of them is
it's
about
in the back of the book.
Perceptions. Yeah. One's more about like controlling people and stuff like that. And so like, what would this ninth house be? Mm-hmm. That's the kind of shit that gets me excited in these fantasy worlds and magical schools, right? Like going back to another series where we don't want to talk about, like the houses, like what would a new house look like?
Yeah.
But alas, that's not to be on this book.
One of the characters that I wish had gotten like more book time was someone who I can't remember their name, but when Darlington and Alex went to the Halloween party, I think it was, and they got like Darlington got like accidentally magicked by this like gender fluid person.
Yes.
Do you remember their name?
Yes. It was like the god of the house. And
I thought they were
going to
have
identity.
a way bigger part in the story.
I did too. So I thought it was going to come back to them.
Yeah, that's another wrong theory that I had, where I got really excited about that character and then they disappeared.
We're all looking it up now.
Yeah, we're all Googling.
I'm like 1 or 2. Okay, I found Lan Kai.
That sounds right.
Lancaihe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I don't know how to say it, but page 178, Rico.
Aha. Okay. One of the 8 immortals of Chinese myth.
What I really liked about this book and the universe is they drop all these little nuggets that could be explored in a sequel. And I don't know what the plans are.
Every house could have a book.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like I would love a book back in time where all the houses are in their heyday, right? When they're all still around. What does that world look like when they're all functioning at full magic? But what is it that you want to see from... Well, first of all, let me ask you both. Do you think you'll continue on with this series?
Yeah. I need to know more.
I think so. Just I know from the ending of this book that they're gonna go get Darlington back from hell.
So you were on board with that hell,
I'm into
and
that.
a brooding gentleman scholar.
Vampire.
Absolutely.
Why headcanon?
Parentheses. And
Personally, for me.
But like he could be like just the fact that magic exists. I wonder what else exists. And with them going down into hell, I'm like, are we going to get some Greek myth here? We've already got some Egyptian myth. Big fan of all of that. Mythology in and of itself, I'm always a sucker. Anything related to mythology, I think a lot of it's been overplayed, but like the Percy Jackson series is just chef's kiss. So I'm really excited about the possibility that we might get some real gods here. Because my interpretation or my reading of the Len Kai portion of the book was that it was one of the members of the house wearing a mask, that they weren't actually the god.
Yeah.
Or god. So I don't know. I hope the real Len Kai, comes out to play.
The wearer of the mask represented Lan Kai, one of the 8 immortals of Chinese myth who could move amongst genders at will, which is just a very interesting concept to me.
Yeah, that's super cool. And I hope we get the real Lan Kai.
Yeah.
I think that would be awesome to like actually see a lot of even the myth that they've created within the houses be true.
Yes.
That would be very interesting. And to see how that kind of plays into like Lethe and Alex being this guardian of power and equity, and to see if the gods are on her side and like help her wipe out the houses and like, kind of start fresh on a new nexus or something. Could see that happening in like book 3, 4 as we evolve.
Interesting.
That really they're puppets to greater power as well.
Yeah, where obviously we can guess that they will go to hell and bring Darlington back, but what happens after that?
And who do they find along the way?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to know. I think that this book, she's setting up a lot more, and I hope she is. Otherwise, I'll be disappointed. But I really do see this being like they're actually just chess players. They're not playing the game. I think there's like a bigger power pulling the strings.
Yes, indeed.
The one line in the book that I think got me the most excited for the future, it's when Belbum explains what they are. We are wheel walkers. All worlds are open to us if we are bold enough to enter. Not both worlds referring to the living and the dead, because the entire time it's just been living in the graves. Yeah. All worlds. I'm like, what are all worlds? Exactly. Like you have living, afterlife, hell, the pantheons, deities that work. What other worlds are there? And so that's what got me excited for the series.
Olympus. Trying to think of the Egyptian level of the afterlife, and I can't remember the name right now.
And possibly diving into seeing the world in any timeline based on the kid seeing that.
Are we about to get a multiverse theory up in here too? Like, I don't know.
Multiverses are so in right now.
They really are though. I'm kind of getting multiverse fatigue, if you ask me.
Metaverse, multiverse.
Yeah, it's all too much for me. My brain starts to hurt at that point, so I kind of hope we keep it to the mythos that I'm familiar with. Yeah.
Is there anything major that we've missed that you want to cover? Do you think we covered most of it? Because it sounds like we're all pretty excited for the future.
Yeah.
And where it can go. Whether it goes there is to be seen, but it could go a lot of places, and we're excited for that. So I don't know if it's supposed to be a duology or a full series or what, but let's just say it's one other book. If you could pick one thing to see, what do you want to see?
I feel like we might get Aztec because of her dad. I think we come back to that. I think we see her tap into some level of magic that no one's explored before in her world of the secret societies because of her connection to that. Like her grandma and the language of death. Like, what is that? What pantheon is that part of? And
You're
that's
so smart,
what I think
Bella.
we'll explore.
I have nothing to say.
Thanks.
That was perfect.
Yeah, you nailed it. That's exactly what I was wanting. Like the mystery of her dad, like the fact that she is Latinx, and because
that hasn't paid out yet.
Yeah.
You don't reiterate that so many times without some big payout.
But
So if we don't get that, I will throw arms and find this author. I have a PG-13 answer to what I would like to see.
Go on.
A Galaxy Darlington sex scene, obviously.
in hell,
In hell.
No.
in hell, that would be so hot.
No, that
Wow.
would be stupid. If you're trying to escape hell, you don't stop to have sex. Get out of here. That ends you up. That ends you just stay there. You know, because sex
You can never
is a
leave.
sin. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But if
I'd
you're
like
gonna
to
commit
see
sin
less.
committed in hell.
I just felt like he felt some kind of way with Alex at that party on that drug, and that
He
needs
sure
to
did.
happen.
Oh, that
sure
was
did.
very.
He was not just feeling himself that night, okay? So
The descriptions were to a level that was unnecessary for me.
I was like, Rika, what book are we reading?
Okay, again, you picked this book. I just want
Did I?
You did.
I did. I know. I remember.
I want to be very clear.
No,
There
I
was a
don't
cou-
remember. I had a concussion.
Everyone, take a drink.
Take a sip.
Yeah, drink and forget that I picked this
I gave
book.
you a list of potential books, and you're like, I definitely want to read this one. I'm like,
Yeah, and it's a great book.
okay. It's a
Thank you
great
very
It's a
much.
great book. Yeah,
I'm a big fan. Now I own the first one.
yeah. I liked the line, and I loved Alex's this wittiness and how sharp she was, and how not unafraid she was to just be vulgar. But I think
Mhm.
it may have been after that where they wake up and Darlington's arms on her. I think it described like his hands on her breast or something. And I think your reaction was like, "Get off me" or "fuck me" or something like that. Like one or the other. Like which one's it going to be? He's like, "Fucking Alex, man."
That was excellent. Unexpected.
I think she was speaking from her soul. She wanted
Oh yeah,
it to happen.
yeah. And I wanted it to happen for them.
Right? That's what I'm saying. If there's one thing I want that is PG-13, I need them to become Galaxington. I don't know
Oh.
what their couple would be.
Ooh, I don't know. How I
Couple
feel
name
about
would be.
Darlixy.
Ooh, I kind of like that one.
That's better.
Yeah, that one's much better. I never said I was good at name shipping. I'm just good at analyses and then
We're
fanfic.
workshopping it. We're workshopping it. We got it together in the end.
I just want to see more Dawes in the next one.
Ugh, yes.
And maybe less triggering content, because the middle of the book was rough.
Not gonna lie, ruined Galita for me a little bit in the butterflies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I didn't need it to be that descriptive because I know
lived in Goleta
exactly
for
where
a
it
few
all
years.
happened. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was too young for that, though.
I had an out-of-body experience where I was like, okay, I need to disassociate.
Oh, there's a really
honestly, there are a lot of descriptions that were too much, including, the one involving a toilet.
Stop! Why did you say it?
Can't even say the word toilet.
Don't! I know exactly what you're talking about.
This book, okay, all right, this is gonna be a really stupid comparison, but I'm gonna make it anyway. So this is her first adult book, right? And so she came out swinging, right? I want to put all this stuff in there, right? I likened it to former like boy band members when they released their first solo album. Their songs are always about like, I am a man and I fuck. I'm like, we get it. We get you're not a teenager. No, like if you look
No, I'm with you. But how are you not making a Zendaya comparison right now, or Zendaya from Disney Channel to Euphoria?
Oh, all Disney people too. Absolutely.
Especially because
That's
I'm watching
Disney
Euphoria. I was like
Miley Cyrus, and now absolutely, yeah.
But like because Euphoria centers around like drugs and sex and like even kind of the underbelly of life, I was like, I actually got confused about like what drugs they had each done. Like when I was reading the book, I was like, oh yeah, she's done all these hard drugs. And then at one point she's like, oh, I never tried the hard stuff, just weed.
That was confusing to me.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, because at one point she did say like, these things mess with you and these things do this.
But later in the book, it was revealed that she only looked like she was on all those drugs because Hallie's ghost was inside her, and then the drugs transferred into her body. So that's why people thought that she was that way, but she actually wasn't.
Yeah. It's super interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that scene about Hallie taking over and just murdering those.
Yeah,
which
that was unexpected.
Love that scene. Yeah, I was not expecting that, but I fucking love that revenge. And like, Alex will get even with you.
For sure.
I like that about her.
Never want to cross.
Yeah, I love that for her.
I like her.
Love that journey for her.
All right, anything else, or we could wrap this up?
I'm good.
I think we're good.
Okay. Z, you had mentioned earlier on your rating. Has your rating changed after this discussion?
I feel like 3.5 is still the vibe.
Bella, what do you think?
I would rate it like 4.25, 4.5. I think I'd need to sit with it a little bit more, but yeah, I'm in the low to mid 4s. I thought it was a really good book. I think trigger warnings need to become standard on books.
Yeah.
But I think that she also, like, it didn't feel gratuitous either. So I will say that I didn't feel like any of the stuff there was a point to it. So at least there's that. Yeah, overall I really enjoyed the book. I will read the sequel. I will read all the sequels. Can't wait to see where our Darlington ended up.
Our Darlington.
Our darling Darlington.
That gentleman demon.
Is
that going to be your new pet name for either your cats or your spouse? See?
Definitely a particular cat.
Yeah, I'd give it at least a 4. At least a 4.
Yeah.
I was debating maybe a little higher than that. It was kind of slow for me in the beginning, like to get in.
Yeah.
To get in.
Getting into to a new world is always hard.
Right, right. But once I was in there,
once it really moved about halfway through. That was when it got really good. Once I think we got to like the parties and Darlington figuring out Alex's secret about the murders and Hallie, it really picked up from there. And I think that's when I really started to enjoy it.
Yeah, I think this is a great start to a new urban fantasy series that I'm really excited about because I love me my urban fantasy and dark academia. So I'm here for it. All right, so it sounds like maybe we'd recommend this to other people, which is great. I'm glad we all enjoyed it. Be a different talk if we hated it. Are there any other books you can think of that you would either recommend to people who enjoyed this book, or if people enjoy these other books, you would recommend this book? Does that make sense? I feel like that was confusing.
Yes. If you like the They Who Must Not Be Named series, and if you liked the Mirror Visitor series, either or, but probably both, I would highly recommend this book. I feel like it's really similar in like the mystery magical realm. Yeah.
Z, you got anything?
I mean, I already mentioned it, but if you're into magical schools, Carry On, I think, is one of the best. And it's definitely, I think, heavier in the magic department and a little more wholesome. And gayer, and it has vampires in it, so I really can't stress enough how much people need to read.
If you've liked Z, you should read it.
If you like my vibe.
If you like Z's vibes that they're putting out here, please read Carry On.
I feel like if you like Darlington's character, you would also like the love interest in Carry On as well.
If you liked Giles in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, read this book. Darlington's like a young Giles.
The Ripper. He doesn't have a dark past.
The Ripper? Or Darlington?
Darlington.
Darlington, yeah.
He could be more evil.
He could.
More bad boy.
But he had a sad past.
That's true.
It's quite sad.
Well, he's a demon now, so maybe he will have a dark
past. Maybe now he's murdered people, Z. Does that make him more interesting to you?
Yes.
A little bit of blood on his hands? Yeah, that's what I thought. Maybe he will come back a vampire.
That's what I'm saying.
Part demon, part human. We should really write these things down, Rico. These things that we say. That might happen.
I mean, they're set in stone
That's
in audio
true.
form.
But I won't listen to myself, so.
We can write them down. We'll put them in an envelope. We'll seal it. We'll notarize it. And when the next books come out, we'll open it up and see how correct they were.
I approve.
Bella and I had a plan to write down who the killer was on like a piece of paper during watching Scream 5. But we never did.
I know,
it.
we forgot
in the
our
movie
favorite.
theater. Right?
Yes, seriously.
Yeah.
We were like, we're going to bring a pen and a piece of paper and we're going to write it down.
We forgot. But I guessed it. I guessed it correctly.
Yes, you did.
Okay, for me, if you like this book, I would recommend either Magic for Liars by Sarah Gailey, which is a murder mystery set in a magical school.
I meant to read that.
The Magicians, because this is about magical college. So Magicians, basically kind of the same premise, but then it gets into more fantastical elements from there. The Magic Order by Mark Millar and Oliver Coipel, which is a graphic novel about a secret magical order that kind of runs things. Not quite a magical school, but the idea of secret magic. And then not fantasy at all, but if you like the idea of actual history being, turned into a fictional story of a mystery, the Robert Langdon series by Dan Brown. So Angels and Demons, The Da Vinci Code, stuff like that. Obviously take away the fantastical elements, but if you like the vibes of old world academia and history and art, I think you could enjoy those. So yeah, those are what I got.
Nice.
Bella, Z, thank you both so much for joining me and talking to me about this book. Very excited to talk to you both, and I think it was a fun talk.
It was your pleasure.
Z, thank you for your honesty.
Wow.
I appreciate that. I'll take it.
It was mostly a joke. I actually would like to return to the podcast. I had a nice time.
I don't know. Open invite revoked. Gotta earn your way back in.
I was going to say, I hope to have you back on the podcast, but I think our schedules might not line up in the future. So
Oh, man.
I don't even know where to go from here. So let's just wrap it up.
Z has rattled Rico to his core.
I gotta bring the chaotic evil energy.
God, chaos demon for sure over here.
I'm cutting this entire ending out. Okay, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Bye.
Bye.
This episode of Shit We've Read has been an Oblivion Geeks production, hosted by Laura Benson and Jason Rico, with music by Joshua Chilton.
To join the discussion on this and all other books we've read, find us at Shit We've Read on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
For episode transcripts and more information about us, please visit shitwe'veread.com.
This podcast is part of the Bilo Network. Visit bilonetwork.com for more great geeky podcasts.
Thanks so much for listening.